G'day. We might as well get started. We think we're running a little bit late, so we'll jump straight into it. This session is a million little ideas. And on today's panel, we have, starting from closest to me, Lycette, who has actually been running a successful studio in Melbourne, making interactive works for the last 12 years, which is quite a phenomenal achievement, I like to think. And next along we have Paton, who is a prolific Flash developer and recently began a challenge to develop 100 game ideas by himself and is now up to 98, I believe, which is also another big achievement. Next along we have Jared Woods, or Farbs as you might know him, who's the creator of Captain Forever, Fishy Fishy, and started the Indie Combat Challenge, as well as quitting his job with RomCheck Fail, as you probably know. And finally, Donaldson down the end, who is a practicing human-centered designer, might be a more correct term, and has been doing so for about 14 years. Also with an achievement of creating ISO standards for human-centered design. I didn't even know that existed. That's quite cool. So we're going to jump straight in, and today's session is basically going to be a series of presentations from each of these people, giving you about a 10-minute kind of run through of their ideas on a million little ideas, and then we'll have some questions at the end. So here's Donaldson.
Okay, well, I've met a heap of passionate designers here. I'm not a games designer, as you've heard. I'm a user experience consultant. I consult to corporate types, designing everything from, policy processes through command and control systems. Right now I'm working on ATMs, so I do a lot of different things. And Paul just asked me to come along and discuss my approach to design and how I pick that idea for my clients that's actually going to fly. So since it's an indie games developer conference, and since I am a bit of a fanboy, and I like my iPhones, I thought I'd talk about how I approach actually putting together an iPhone game. So I'm going to be talking about doing this not from an art perspective, because I'm an artist, but for a commercial success perspective. So the first thing I like to do is set a design target. This is something simple to keep in mind throughout the design process and to keep me focused. And it uncovers all the natural constraints and opportunities. You'll see what I mean as we talk through this. Since I'm an experienced designer, I concentrate on the experience. And when talking about this, I've got to look at the user, their behaviour, and the context in which they're going to use something. In this case, being a game and being on the iPhone, a quick check of the ad mob statistics shows that the person most likely to buy an app on iTunes is an affluent 25 to 65-year-old male. So I always like to have a look at these people, go out, that's my target segment, go out and have a look at them. At the moment I'm doing some work with a big bank, so there's a lot of people like this in there. So I could do a bit of observation on them. And some things I do, they live on little time and lots of coffee. They're what social scientists now call microtaskers. They can't sit still for very long. Whenever there's a dormant period, they want to be doing something. So you'll see them in their cafe waiting for their next double espresso in line. They'll be on their iPhone. They only do small things on their iPhone when they're standing up though. They only do things like reading email or reading their tweets or reading whatever. Once they start getting engaged, you start to see them sit down. So once they start replying to an email or whatever, they sit down. So that was an important point to pick up on for me. The other thing is that the phone is always on. I'm going to call this guy Bob. The phone is always on Bob. So he can use it if there's a game on it to shut up the screaming kid. And also he can use it to pass time. And since he's such a busy guy, and since he only gets engaged when he's sitting down, that passing time is either going to be, on the train or on the toilet. So I thought, okay, here's my design target. I'm designing a family-friendly toilet game. What makes up a family-friendly toilet game? Well, it's a short game. It's going to be quick to load. It's going to be quite simple. It's going to have increasing levels of challenge as you go along, starting from really, really simple to get into it to getting really difficult down the track. There's got to be the ability to save at any point in time or very quickly get back to where you were before. So that's a little target that I'm going to have in mind while going through this. Keeping it simple. I've always been really ambitious. I've always had huge ideas. And like Andrew mentioned on the panel before, I used to bite off more than I can chew. But it's interesting, once you learn to boil things down to their essence, you break them down into the component parts and find out what's really good about them. Once you've got that, you can start looking at your ideas from different angles. And when you do that, like Braden said yesterday, you can actually find some unique points and represent something in a unique fashion. And it's also important for the fact that, as I said, I was always overly ambitious. I'd always bite off more than I could chew, and I'd never get things done, or I wouldn't get them done to satisfaction. Now, having great ideas is fantastic, but ideas without actions are worthless. So I always put these things into action in very small chunks. I also like to play to strengths. Talking about the iPhone strengths, and if I was an independent developer just working for myself, the iPhone strengths are it's always on me, it's always available, actually it's always on Bob, it's always available for him, and the interactions are based on, they're novel interactions based on a really good touchscreen and the accelerometers. So I'd be looking at something that is fast loading, so during that micro-tasking period, Bob could get it out and start playing with it. And I would be basing the interactions on one simple thing, either tap, swipe, or movement. The one thing I find surprising when looking at some of the iPhone games is the iPhone has these wonderful novel interactions built into it, yet a lot of people still think of it as a PlayStation controller. There are quite a lot of games out there like this, which doesn't really make that much sense. Other things that do make sense are just taking those novel points, the simple interactions, and going with them, leveraging the native interactions. A quick look at the top paid iPhone games shows that, well, pretty much they have simple graphics and sound, simple interactions that are based on the native interactions that I spoke about. They're very quick to start, they have short levels, they increase in challenge. Basically, these things are your family-friendly toilet games. Don't have this one. The last thing really is about getting constant feedback, and what the guys were talking about on the panel before. IP, this is something that I deal with every day with large corporates. The biggest problem or biggest hurdle they have to overcome is letting go of their IP. It's amazing how often they like to fail big. They will spend months and millions of dollars on a project before any of the real users ever get to see it. And then they find they went down the wrong track. And it can be like the Titanic. You point at 1 degree, it's fine at the beginning, but a few hundred miles away, it's a massive distance that you've gone away from where you should be. I prefer for my clients to fail early and fail cheaply. So I always get concepts stage out in front of users. I have to go through this cultural change with my clients to get them to let go of this paranoia over their IP, because ideas are cheap and ideas are plentiful. And no matter how good you think your idea is, someone else has already had it anyway. So get it out there, be able to refine it, and you can be on the right path. I'd also get my app into the App Store as soon as possible. And I'd get it in there with very basic graphics, very basic sound, and minimal levels. And then be able to track what's happening in the comments. Because then you see, I mean, everyone's going to say, oh, it's got crap graphics and stuff like that. But you can see if people cotton on to the game idea. And if they do cotton on to the game idea, then it's a win and go forward with it. If they haven't, if they think that the whole idea is crap, well, that's one of those things where you can just not worry about it because you didn't spend that much time on it anyway. So if I was building this for Bob, I'd get something out there so plenty of people like Bob play with it. If it gets a good reception, sure, then I would start building on it. Then I'd start looking at putting the polish on it. Then I'd start looking at really heavily marketing and investing my time and effort into it. So that's basically how I go around picking out that good idea. I have a solid target to design for, never bite off more than I can chew. I take advantage of unique capabilities in any situation and keep a feedback loop of real users so my failures are small and successes can be capitalized on. And that's it.
So I don't look like that at all. As I'll explain it. That's me. That's our topic. That's too long, so I'm going to talk about that bit. I can guess that you've all got ideas for video games, right? That's why we're here. And maybe you'd like to know whether or not they're that, I think it was the brilliant, life-changing, shining moment that you're after. So let's find out. We're going to run a test. What I need you to do right now is shut your eyes. And this is actually an important part of the test, so you, for instance, have your eyes open. Thank you. Okay, now think about your favorite game design idea. What I need you to do is think about it. Think about what about it makes it particularly interesting, what it would be like to play it. Maybe think about what it would be like for somebody else to play it. Just think about that for about 30 seconds for me. Okay. Right. Okay, test two. So, there was somebody over there, up there, and over there, who I think have brilliant game design ideas. And the reason for that, quite simply, is they were smiling. Okay? Which shows that they've got some amount of love for their project. And we've heard this time and again over this weekend that that's something that can really make a project work. I want to talk about a very specific kind of subset of game project love. And it's something I've started practicing in recent years. It's worked, I think, reasonably well for me. It's worked better than everything else I've tried, so I'm pretty happy with it. Now, it's something I call selfish design. Now, selfish design, very, very simple. I make a game because I want to play it, right? Not because necessarily I'm making it for somebody else or a market or anything like that. I just want to get in there and play this game. Nobody's made it yet, so I'm going to make it. Now, this sounds kind of a bit wanky and useless, but there are some actual concrete practical reasons for doing this as well. One of them is somebody